Okay, my name's Sophie Fletcher and I'm going to be doing a video every month, just a short discussion video on a topic point. And this month we're going to be talking about why it's important to do a class, a hypnobirthing class over a book or an MP3. There's been a lot of discussion about it online and I have mixed feelings about it because I think a book and an MP3 can work really well for some people. But a class really takes it that bit further and it really helps embed those techniques. And I'll explain a little bit why that's important. The first thing is that to understand that I did do just MP3s. I actually had a CD set and I had my headphones and it was a time before we had smartphones and everything, so I had a little CD player and my headphones and I'd listen to them every night for 15 weeks and I loved them. I fell asleep every night. I was so relaxed. I responded really well to it. It was before I did any training or anything, and I just thought it was wonderful. And when I went into labour, I was really relaxed. I had my headphones on. I was in my zone with my hypnosis. But my son was a little bit early, and we were in a hospital environment. And there were lots of other things going on around me. So every now and then I had to take my headphones off, I had to have a conversation with someone. And because I hadn't learned other techniques to help manage that situation, every time I did that, my adrenaline went up, I became more alert, became a bit more distressed. And I didn't understand what that was all really about because I hadn't been to a class, I hadn't learned more about what was going on underneath the surface, how the environment was affecting me, how those interactions were affecting me, how I could change them, how I could control and manage them better. All of that, all the other components that make up a hypnobirthing class, I hadn't done. And so I felt in hindsight that a hypnobirthing class would have helped me have an even better birth than I did, and would have helped me a lot more. So I think you can have a good experience with a book and MP3s, but I think that you don't know that until the time comes, and that there are so many things that you learn on a class and the way you learn them is different that can really prepare you in a more profound way. The second thing that I think is really interesting is in a class you can really start to process your own individual fears and anxieties. A lot of women say, I have a fear of childbirth, or I'm really anxious about childbirth, which is a generalization really, because when you work with a woman and you work with her fear of childbirth, it's a process where she starts to realize that she's not afraid of childbirth, but it's a component of childbirth that holds that fear or anxiety. So it may be a fear of needles or maybe the fear of something else. And so a class can help you identify that and to process that. And because you're doing that in that way, it works very quickly and in a much deeper way as well. And the other, if you can't get to a class, I mean, I would say this, if you can't get to a class, then try and go and see a counsellor or a hypnotherapist so you can do some reflective work or some processing around any fears or anxieties that you have, because that can be really valuable, really valuable. And if I couldn't get to a class, that's what I would do. The third reason I think a class is really important is because however much you read a book, however many MP3s you listen to, doing a class embeds things in a different way. With hypnobirthing, we always say practice, 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 because the more you practice, the deeper those techniques go. And in a class, what it does is it teaches you in a different way. So you learn it at a physical level, and that does make a difference. There is research to show, for example, that the physical act of writing intentions, writing objectives and goals down, writing those processes down, actually changes the outcome. It can improve the outcome significantly. So physically going through techniques, exploring those techniques in a class, although it may seem like you're going over old ground and that it's stuff you already know, it has a much deeper impact. So to be honest, I find it quite frustrating when people say to me, oh, I didn't learn anything different on the class, because hypnosis is so subtle that we use certain language patterns, we use certain techniques that, while you may feel like you're going over old ground, what's happening is you're conditioning and embedding and rooting things much more deeply, so that your responses at a later date are much more spontaneous, conditioned, automatic. So they happen without you even thinking about it. Also, people learn differently. So some people are very visual, some people are very kinesthetic, so that means they have to do something, feel something. And when I teach a class, I add different techniques in that are appropriate for different learners. So I'll have techniques that are for someone who likes to feel something or is kinesthetic. I have techniques where they're touching or feeling something. Or doing something physically. For someone who's very visual, I have very visual aspects of teaching. So if there were elements of the book that maybe didn't go as deeply because they're not as consistent with your style of learning, then the class will fill in those gaps, so really important that, and people make big shifts after a class. And I have an exercise where I test people's knowledge at the beginning of the class. And even the people who've read the book and say, oh yeah, I've read the book, I've read that chapter, I know all of that. When I ask them to do this exercise, they can't actually write down the information. They're like, oh, I thought I knew that, but I don't know it as well as I thought I did. So some of the exercises identify areas where you can really build your knowledge and which can help you on the day. And the final thing about doing a class is the practitioner. When you do a class, you have a practitioner who doesn't just teach the class and doesn't just guide you through all the techniques. She's there after the class. So if there's anything you don't quite get or quite understand, or something crops up, or you have a test or a scan coming up that you maybe want a bit of, not advice, but you want more techniques to use or anything like that, the practitioner is there. The practitioner can also signpost you to other advice and other information as well. So she can broaden your knowledge base at those points. And that's also invaluable. And even though some people never get back to me after a class, they know I'm there. And don't underestimate that, knowing that someone is there in the background who has your back, who knows what your process is, and to support you in that. And so all of that is really valuable. So think about all those points. You can read a book and do an MP3, and that will take you so far. But if you want to do extra, if you really want to reinforce it, root it, fill in the gaps, take on board things at a physical level, explore other techniques, other ideas, have a debate with people around it, and have that practitioner there for you, then definitely do a class. It's well worth it. From my own experience, I really wish I'd done one. And I know from speaking to people that they really valued the fact that they were able to be in a space to explore those fears, those anxieties, those techniques, to question whether they were doing them the right way. And you know, with Mindful Mama, we also are with you until 6 months afterwards, and we have a set of MP3s. We send out a pep talk email at 40 weeks to help you get through those last final weeks if you're feeling pressure. And so all of that support goes on in the background of the class. So I hope you enjoyed that. If you've got any other topics you'd like to explore or you'd like me to talk about, then just drop us a line at admin@mindfulmama.co.uk, or visit us on our Facebook page, which is Facebook.com/mindfulmama. Okay,